Time to sound off, Husker Nation. This is your Real Red Reaction Show on Lincoln's KFOR. Call the show now at 402-489-1240.
And welcome to it. It is Real Red Reaction, as we are happy to be with you here on KFOR, KFORnow.com. Real Red Reaction, powered by Slim Chickens. We are jumping the gun because, well, this thing isn't close, and Nebraska getting more than humbled today, 56-7 by Indiana. Elijah Herbal along, Jeff Moats with us, Chris Schmidt, 489-1240, 489-1240 to get in, 800-825-5865. Let it all out. I thought Indiana was going to do bad things to Nebraska offensively. They've done that and then some. Nebraska's offense needed to be in, rare form, Moatsy, like we hadn't seen this season, being able to match scores or at least control the football. But horrible start for Nebraska defensively. And then Coach Barnett texting me right now, ouch, ... Yeah, big ouch for Nebraska today. And, hey, Indiana's a heck of a good football team. Nebraska, a ways to go. We'll take your thoughts and comments. We'll get to the stream as well. But the thing that I think is most frustrating for Nebraska fans is not getting beat. You can handle if you get beat by a better team or you lose a tight, tough ball game, but you get embarrassed. You get embarrassed on this stage, and you didn't look ready. Fellas, you didn't look ready after a bye week. You looked completely 180 from what Indiana looked like coming in. And listen, the knock on Indiana was they hadn't played anybody. Well, doesn't matter. They're a good football team. Where's Nebraska at right now? It's going to be a week of soul searching before you head to Columbus, Elijah.
That it is. And it's a come to Jesus type week for this Husker football team.
It's find Jesus and get him a jersey.
Yeah, it is a disaster of monumental proportions, this game today. There is not a single positive that can be taken from it. You were outcoached, you were outplayed, you were outmanned, you were out-physicaled, you were out-toughed. There is not a single positive that can be taken away from it today. I think this Husker football team quit before halftime, which is absolutely unacceptable. It's simply an embarrassing performance from the Huskers today, and that performance was an embarrassment to anyone who has ever worn the N before, to anyone who lives in the state of Nebraska, to anyone who supports this football team. It's simply unacceptable, and I don't know where you go from here. Matt Rhule's not the type of guy to fire his coaches in season, but if there's any performance that deserves for assistant coaches to be fired, it was that performance we just saw today. Absolutely horrific.
I want to chime in here really quick, fellas. Obviously, the opening drive of the game with Indiana and the way they moved that football and the way that Nebraska's defense looked, it's like, okay, well, maybe, yeah, they threw the first punch, and then Nebraska can respond, and then all of a sudden on that kickoff, that return, that so-called return that went out at the 1 yard line, to me was like, what was going on? Did somebody, go brain dead all of a sudden? How come they didn't try to bother even going on a return off of that kickoff? And I think that's what kind of maybe precipitated a lot of the other issues today, in addition to maybe not being completely prepared. But it's hard to fathom. You've had more than a week since you beat Rutgers to get prepared for this game, work on a few things, heal up, improve some things. And it's like that this team today went out and they were just simply flat. The offensive line, I remember Joel Klatt was saying at one point in the broadcast today, this was kind of a comparison between the offensive lines. There is no question that Indiana's offensive line is such a key component to their success because of what they create for guys getting open, where they create the run game. I was impressed with Rourke. Obviously, he went out with an injury, didn't play in the second half, but I was impressed with their backup. No, you didn't need him. And I was impressed with their backup, Jackson. I thought he did a good job, too. And to be honest with you, where does Nebraska go from here? I mean, you got to do some soul searching here because you got to make another road trip here in another week, and you're going in to Buckeye country where it's I mean, the task is very tall. But, you got to realize what you're up against now if you're Nebraska, and you got to, work on a few things. I guess the key here is to stay competitive and not flat give up like what we saw this afternoon. I thought Nebraska gave up basically right before halftime when, 35-7 at halftime when Indiana went up. And so there's a lot of things to look at. I think the special teams right now is still a big concern. Simply, again, that kickoff return that went out the 1 yard line, I mean, that's nuts. So, but I'm not saying there's going to be any sort of changes when it comes to the coaching staff already in midseason. But I would imagine if things don't improve moving forward, win or lose the rest of the way, there could be some changes, and I think more so than anything else with the special teams.
Well, special teams is a problem. JP is with us also. We'll get to some of your phone calls here in a moment, and also your comments in the stream. Bill Dolman also joining us here on Real Red Reaction, powered by Slim Chickens, 489-1240, 489-1240. 21 points in the second quarter for Indiana, and then they just matched 2 touchdowns in the third, 2 touchdowns in the fourth. Nebraska did cut it to 14-7. Nebraska had some long drives, but unable to get it into the end zone. I think, maybe 1 for 5 in red zone opportunities. We'll go around the horn here in a moment. We'll get to your comments as well. Tad with us, though, to get things kicked off on Real Red Reaction. Nebraska falls. Nebraska. Tad, thanks for tuning in, brother. Nebraska needs to find a lot of. You're going to start with the run game, aren't you?
Yes, I am. And I'm telling you, if we do not do and can get the run game going, you're looking for a 5-7 season. We have to pound the football. I am sick and tired of watching this quarterback and these passes. This is just not us. Those guys up front are guys that can lean forward and make blocks and don't have to hold blocks. You see the pressure on the quarterback when they have to drop back. So it's just absolutely, I can't say it enough. I am sick and tired of seeing the same song all the time. Pound the football. Thanks, guys.
Ted, appreciate it. JP, Bill, get your thoughts. It'd be nice to be able to pound the football, but I don't think Nebraska, it's been an ongoing issue, JP, with Nebraska running the football or trying to run the football. I mean, it's another 2.5 a carry effort today. Your leading rusher was Harburg, and he just played the last 3 minutes, 5 for 32.
Yeah, the problem is things were going okay with Dowdell in there until the fumble. And then when the fumble happened, that's when it all derailed. And Ramir Johnson, love the guy, great effort guy. He is not a power running back. So anytime, especially that on that last series where we got pretty close and it was 3rd and goal and we called a run play to Ramir Johnson, like that's not going to go anywhere against a team that's putting 7 in the box. So we don't have a run game. We don't have the pounders in there to do that. And our offensive line is not great. And Indiana did exactly what they needed to do. They stacked the box against us a lot. And we're constantly bringing pressure a lot because they knew we weren't going to be able to run the ball after Dowdell fumbled the ball and the game plan changed. And I understand what our caller had to say about it. We need to ground and pound. Yeah, but that's not football nowadays. You have to be able to have both facets of the game working, running and passing. And if you don't have an offensive line to do that, you can't do that.
Bill, Nebraska's in search, and Elijah wants your take as well. Nebraska in search of being able to grasp something that's sustainable, find an identity. And it is a lot is on the shoulders of the freshman quarterback, Dylan Raiola, Nebraska. And listen, Indiana did what they wanted. When it comes to turnover on downs defensively, Nebraska had really no answer. And then you factor in the turnover problem, really -5. I know Indiana had 1 on the board, but it was the end of half Hail Mary. 3 fumbles, I think that 2 fumbles and 3 interceptions by Dylan. He had a take your medicine type day today. But Nebraska really, they just, it's not that they don't want to run the football. They just can't run the football.
That's that is a huge problem, and it's not getting any better. At the beginning of the season, it was, Nebraska's getting, 4 to 5 yards a carry, no And I lamented that there's no 8 to 15 yards. Now it's barely getting the 4 yards. And maybe that's because you're playing against much better competition in the Big Ten than what Nebraska faced against UTEP and UNI and Colorado's defense. But the ground game has regressed. And I think part of that is that the quarterback, as talented as he is and as good as he's going to probably look as a pro-style quarterback one day, he's not a threat to the run in the college game. And I think in the college game, you have to have that threat that if something's not there, that the quarterback can at least pick you up 5 yards on 3rd and 4 or 7 yards on 3rd and 6. And there are too many times where it looks like if he'd just tuck it and run, he could probably pick up a first down. But he looks, it's pass first, check down second, see if your first option is open again, avoid the sack, and then it's too late to run. And maybe that's going to come with maturity, and Dylan's going to understand that he's got to use his legs. His idol does, periodically, and can glide for 10 to 15 yards at times. But Nebraska does not have a ground game threat at all, no matter who they put in the backfield. Another couple of thoughts real quick. I don't think he's been the same since he overthrew Lindenmeyer in the Illinois game.
Gun shy?
Something about that overthrow, and he has not. I think he's been either gun shy or he's been trying to be too perfect, and he just doesn't. Doesn't see the shots that he saw earlier. Maybe receivers aren't getting open, but he's not been the same quarterback since he missed that pass to Lindenmeyer late in the Illinois game. And I don't know what it is. It's like Tom Cruise in the first Top Gun after Goose went down, not going to take the shot. And it just seems like there are no downfield threats. I don't recall any passes today.
One double move that was DPI. That was
right. That stretches the field and at least makes that a threat, even if it's an incompletion. They don't do that. And then the third thought is special teams. And now you're not even giving them a chance to miss a field goal. And when Nebraska had it, Dowdell fumbled on 4th and 2 when it looked like he was going to have the first down had he not dropped the ball. But Nebraska doesn't even have confidence to kick a field goal, to get points on the board on the road. It's 7-0. They march down the field. They put points on the board. Nebraska comes back, has a chance. 7-3, gets people thinking a little bit. Nebraska moved. It was a productive drive. You get off the field. Okay, defense hopefully regroups, but you immediately go for it. Nebraska didn't attempt a field goal at all today. Not that they had a lot of opportunities to do so, but very rarely do you see in games where there's just such an obvious lack of confidence in putting points on the board. And it is all or nothing. And for Nebraska, it was all nothing on 4th down today.
Well, it's a case I think the confidence is gone because I think the book is out on how to slow down and stop this Nebraska offense as of right now, which is you play man coverage on the outside because Nebraska's receivers can't get separation. You trust that your front 7 can go take on Nebraska's front 5 or front 6, hat on a hat. You got a free guy, go make a tackle. Nebraska's running backs can't make the one guy miss. For some reason, it's always put the shoulder down, try to run through him, and Nebraska hasn't been able to run through tackles. And then once you get to 3rd down, you go man coverage again, you blitz Raiola, and you put pressure on that offensive line. There's so many areas that are just not up to snuff on that Husker offense. Offensive line, running backs, wide receivers. I mean, it's all over the board. The offense as a whole is so limited by the guys that they have. The book's out. It might be a long next 5 games if the book is out on Nebraska. If people can just go man coverage and say, we're going to trust that our extra guy in the box is going to stop your running game, and hey, we're going to go one-on-one across the board. We dare you to beat us. It's working right now. Nebraska doesn't have a solution, and it's horrific to watch offensively because of that, because you know what? They've put together that one drive. It's awesome. And then you shoot yourself in the foot because when you consistently pull out that game plan, it is just absolutely putting Nebraska's offense into a fit, and there's no confidence because of it.
That book is like a pamphlet or a coloring book.
It's
a
comic
book. It's an easy read.
489-1240, 489-1240, Real Red Reaction, powered by Slim Chickens.
How many times this week? Sorry.
Find your way to 14th and Pine Lake. Eat your feelings. 84th and Old Cheney. Nebraska dominated today. 56-7. There's a lot to get into with just how and why it went this way. And we'll have Matt Rhule's post-game comments here in a little bit. Uncle Jimmy blames the all-white, the surrender whites.
What did I say?
Uniform.
What did I say? The all-white uniforms, that's a sign of bad luck.
You know, it's a sign of bad luck. 2.8 a carry. All right.
Yeah.
That too.
Yeah.
No, it's the white uniforms. It's not. It's the white uniform. When it's a sign of surrender, or somebody else said, "Hey, Nebraska's wearing their snowflake uniforms today." I'm not. Oh, I don't want to hear that.
So we should just go out naked and not even worry about uniforms anymore.
What do you remember? What was it?
That's one way to break tackles.
I mean, nobody's going to want to tackle you.
What was it? Was it in 86 or 87, Bill, that Nebraska went all red against Oklahoma?
86.
It was 86. Because I remember that, and OU came in Lincoln and crushed him. And those all red uniforms, that concept was never the same.
Black Hills Brennan says, pull the single digits, take the black shirts. Let's go there to the lines of scrimmage. Let's start there. We can whine about the run game. We can whine about the receivers not getting open. We can whine about freshman mistakes or a freshman looking like a freshman. But when it comes to football and it comes to the Big Ten, it's point of attack football, Elijah. What are you on the offensive line? What are you on the defensive line? Nebraska's hosses, and I get Indiana's difficult because they can run it and they can throw it. But Nebraska was absolutely worked on the defensive line today. Death row got exposed today. The linebackers got sheltered a little bit. The corners on the back shoulder throws, great perfect placement by Rourke. But it just all three levels had a tough day. Maybe Indiana is this good, and I'm not doubting him. I just don't know. I want to see him against Ohio State. I know where Nebraska is, and Nebraska is a team right now that is going to be struggling to get to 6. I believe that. I've questioned all along how good's Nebraska, not taking anything away from some of their wins or their effort. But today they just got thrown around. They got slapped around. They got dominated. And that's not supposed to happen. You know, it's not supposed to happen, but it has happened. And it's just same song, next verse for this program. Today was supposed to be a kind of a temperature check. Where's this program at in year 2 on this stage after a couple of hurdles this season? And it gets to be very dangerous moving forward. You get rocked today. Next week is next week. UCLA just beat Rutgers on the road. I mean, it is a daunting climb for this football team. They better find some answers. And there's no bye week until you get to November here. It could get real ugly.
Both sides of the ball got kicked around on the line of scrimmage, just absolutely thrashed. That's what the story was. I think I placed most of the blame defensively on the defensive line, the way they got absolutely mauled, because the linebackers got to start playing downhill. They got to start playing with their eyes in the backfield. And that is the best friend of the RPO offense, is whenever the linebackers have to play downfield with their eyes in the backfield, because it opens up so much over the top. The corners on islands. I mean, Indiana's been doing the back shoulder throw all season long. That guys in the NFL struggle with that. That's tough. It's even tougher whenever you don't have linebackers to help you out in pass support, because they got to be flowing downhill to stop the run. The poor defensive performance started on the line of scrimmage. The poor offensive performance started on the line of scrimmage. And that's really disappointing, because you have a head coach, I tweeted about this, that for 2 years has preached being tough, being physical. And then you have a coach in year 1. And yes, I know he's got transfers coming in that have some experience. It's an old team. But you still have your own offensive linemen that have spent a long time in the program, your own defensive linemen that have spent a long time in the program. That's where the experience of your team is, on the offensive line and the defensive line. And those guys got physically whooped today. It's as simple as that. Whooped.
Mm-hmm. Matt Rhule didn't see this coming. Let's spend a little bit of time on the offense and moving forward here. Nebraska, they've got to commit. I know they've got this quarterback that they feel like can give them a leg up throwing the football, or that's his forte. Wonderful. But it's got to trickle down in a positive way if they can start running the football and being good at it. to help the passing game, to help the wideouts. And Nebraska's wideouts, Bill, have really struggled. I mean, Nayor, Banks, guys that you brought in because what you had maybe weren't ready. They were young. They have not stepped up their game, and they keep getting owned, dominated, unable to get off coverage. Fedoni played well, and Lloyd really are about it. What you got throwing the football to right now for Nebraska?
There's no physicality downfield, and you don't see separation. You don't see guys getting open. You don't see guys
either
making blocks. There was a play, I think it was in the second half, the pass to the Indiana sideline, and there were three Indiana players all trying to stop. Jamal Banks was trying to stop two or three at one time, and he's just reaching out with his arms like Kevin Bacon in Animal House. And they just ran right through him and past him. But again, it was a short gain on the play. I said going into this game that Nair and Banks, if they want to play on Sundays and make some money, they needed to start making money today. And I don't think we saw that. Banks's best play was getting the DPI. And Nair has not, been a big factor since you and I.
Mm-hmm.
And that's disappointing. Those were the guys that I thought coming into the season were the security blankets or the guys who would help Dylan Raiola adapt to the college game, because they were big veteran receivers with wide catch radius. And I'm just wondering, was Banks never called upon to block at Wake Forest in 4 years? I mean, he's got some gaudy receiving numbers, but was he physical? I don't know. I mean, I've not studied Wake Forest game film over the last 4 years.
They won a lot of 45, 42 ball games.
Right. And Nair, Nair had injuries and bounced from Wyoming to Texas and, found his way to Nebraska. And I think he's a great pass catcher, but for Nebraska to have any kind of, production downfield, guys, if they're not going to be making catches, they've got to be making blocks. And you just don't have those guys like back in the old days, Reggie Ball, Dave Sizes, Brendan Holbein. You guys block 5 times and we'll throw you one pass.
The dreaded treat that's dangled. That's, and let's talk about Dylan for a moment. You're going to have freshman moments. He was left in quite a while today, and I saw too many times where he just, because of guys not being able to get open, held the ball, and then didn't make a great decision when he did hold the ball, and he threw a few interceptions. The other part of this is his feet are always moving, man, and he's just worried about getting whacked. He gets nervous feet, and he's just not what he was early. And again, to the book being out, JP, it's there. How does Nebraska respond and rebound to this?
Well, they can't give up on him. He's got the yips right now, and he's got to just get past the yips. And they've got to just, I mean, when he was having to check down to Fedoni, it was solid. It was like watching Mahomes and Kelsey. It was always there for an option. And as an offensive coordinator, they should have said, okay, well, we need to, I get we've got these great wide receivers. They're supposed to be able to get open and make some plays. But if it's not working, you hammer away at the middle. You do the crossing patterns, you get Fedoni, you just keep doing that because that's getting you forward of momentum instead of trying to throw the long ball. Everybody's just like, go long. It doesn't work that way. You have to be able to adjust the game plan as the game is happening. And so Dylan, he's going to have to sit in there and figure things out this week and get ready for Ohio State. And if we have 5 turnovers, if we would have been mistake-free, 2 of those turnovers would have been touchdowns for us and would have not been touchdowns for them. So it would have been a lot closer game than it was.
489-1240 to get in here on Real Red Reaction, powered by Slim Chickens.
And one of the problems that I have with Raiola this season, I think for a true freshman, for a 19-year-old,
good ball.
He's doing all he can. But look at the NFL. Whenever you get your acclaimed rookie, what do you do for your rookie quarterback? You either get him a solid offensive line and a running back or a solid offensive line and wide receivers to throw the football to. That's what you do. And right now, Nebraska does not have a solid offensive line or a solid running back or solid wide receivers.
Run game and tight end, right? That's your freshman's best friend. And Nebraska can't go to the run game. The tight end played his ass off today. And, there needs to be more Fedoni. And I just wonder how and if Nebraska can adjust moving forward here with what they are. The one time they looked in rhythm on that scoring drive, fellas, was tempo. They went a little hurry up. They spread it out. They threw it around. And Motzi, I don't know that you're going to make a living that way in the Big Ten doing it.
Well, but again, it worked though. I guess the question is, why do they back off of that up-tempo offense after that? I mean, did they feel like that they were in a position where they were still within reach at that point? Probably. But then when you're down, 21-7, why didn't you go back to the up-tempo and continue that pattern again? And I liked how Thomas Fedoni played today. I thought, and I agree with a lot of you guys, I think they should have thrown to him a lot more, because there were quite a few times that I noticed that he was wide open when they were throwing the ball to somebody else. And again, Fedoni worked his butt off this afternoon. He had 6 catches for 91 yards today. That's pretty good for a tight end, in my opinion. But that's the thing. If you go up tempo and it works and you get points out of it, why do you quit doing it?
Well, that's where, as a offensive coordinator, you have to be able to. You've got this big sheet, and you know what plays you're going to run, and you run through those plays, and you go in the order you think they're going to work. That's when you have to be able to make adjustments. And you saw it was working with Fedoni, so go at it, hammer away at it until the other team figures it out and tries to stop it, and then you fake it to him and go somewhere else. That's where coaching comes into play, especially in the offensive coordinator spot. And it's really up to him to make that happen.
And I also think, to Indiana's credit too, I mean, they were able to figure out the run attack more than anything, and even some of the passing plays after a while. But when Fedoni got open, I think Indiana's defense had trouble trying to stop him on many of those times that he was getting the ball. So the tempo and even going to Fedoni more than anything else, I think, is something that they need to consider in situations like that moving forward, especially when you're going to go into Columbus next weekend and you're playing one of the top 5 teams in the country.
8 touchdowns, 10 drives for Indiana. Physically, Nebraska dominated, no momentum. Nebraska didn't look ready from the jump. This offense has zero threat with the run game, and you have zero threat with the quarterback run. It's not part of your offense this year. You're not a handoff to the running back run team, even though you want to be. You better have an incredible offensive line if you're going to go and be a pro-style offense. And Nebraska right now, a lot of finger pointing on the stream here about the assistant coaches. I want to get into Coach Rhule, and we'll hear from him. We'll take a break as well. With Rhule, he didn't expect this. He thought the team, and I'm going off of a quote I saw on social media. We'll hear from him in a little bit. But how can you not know your team's good or bad to go in this moment, in this game, in this situation? And he seems to me to have a pretty good pulse of what's going on with the football team. He clearly, what he saw practice-wise wasn't transferable to the game Saturday. From a game plan standpoint, you got to go against a team that, all right, on paper looked pretty dominant defensively. They were top 10 in the country. Nebraska held below what Indiana averages or allows by their defense. And, Nebraska really has a situation where they've got to do better for their freshman quarterback. They got to be better for their freshman quarterback. They've got to figure out a run game situation. And then in these moments, when we talk about the start, Elijah, you can't start out on your own 1 yard line after your defense gave up a 3rd and long. I have no doubt that it's been talked about in practice, but when you get in the moment, you still screw it up.
I sure didn't expect the second special teams play to be that disastrous. I wasn't expecting it to be good today. But I wasn't expecting that on the second possession. Maybe that's on me for not expecting going out in the one. And that really set the tone for the entire game, did it not? That was the story of the game. Catching the ball on the 1 yard line, walking out of bounds.
That was this game in a still pick moment.
That was up there with the Illinois game a couple of years ago where Nebraska didn't Nebraska get a safety on a punt return or something early on?
And then you had the Illinois punter run 40 yards.
Yeah, I know that one. I don't want to relive that. I'm only one disaster memory at a time. But there was a punt. There was Nebraska punted or something and ended up getting a return and got a safety on a punt return early on. It's like, well, there's the tone setter. And then after they got the touchdown, the ensuing kick, you catch it on a ball that was probably going out of bounds. I think there might have been a procedure penalty on that. So instead of getting it at the 30, you catch it and run out of bounds at the 1 yard line. And there's your game again. There used to be a rule that you never, ever catch a punt or a kick inside the 10. If you let it go into the end zone. And certainly in college football, you call the fair catch and all that. But when it was like, oh my God, he just went out of bounds at the 1 yard line.
The other Brian chimes in, where the hell do you go from here? Everything was subpar, out-coached. An extra week to prep, 7 points, 5 turnovers. Nebraska, 3 tackles for loss, 1 sack. That was it. This takes you back as a Nebraska fan to some other just dominant beatdowns that you suffered. The difference was it was to a PJ Fleck squad in its infancy, or a team that ended up winning 8 or 9 ball games. Indiana may go there again, but you just can't keep living like this if you're Nebraska, and they're going to have to make some changes on the field when it comes to future weeks. Will's with us here on Real Red Reaction, 489-1240. Did Will eject? He did. Give us a shout back, 489-1240, 800-825-5865. Will, thanks for checking back in. Go ahead.
Yeah, am I live?
Yes,
you
sir.
are.
Yeah, you're on the air.
All right. Wow, what an embarrassment. This is really, I can't believe this finally came down to it,
Wasn't good, man. And I didn't feel good about Nebraska's matchup, but it went from bad to real ugly with just how they had no answer. They had no way to stop the Indiana offense. Conversely, they had no way to move the ball and at least punch it into the end zone when Nebraska did have the ball on offense. So it was a total beatdown. Indiana looks as good as advertised statistically, but unfortunately for Nebraska, you wanted to see where you were at as a program halfway home into year 2, and you're miles and miles away. You might be a 500 football team.
Yeah, but we got a really nice locker room, and you can. We have a.
And you're competitive for the transfer portal and 4- and 5-star recruits.
Yeah, because we have a really nice locker room. We got nap pods, 5-star restaurant, pools, massages.
Wow.
Video games.
It's like a country club.
Yeah. Our locker room beats your locker room.
Mm-hmm.
I called a couple weeks ago after the Rutgers game, and I said, our easiest part of the season's over. This is going to be our toughest part. And I said a 6-6 record. I still stand to that. UCLA, if we're lucky.
I would agree, Will. I think right now, your goal now, if you're Nebraska, is to get to that 6th win to become bowl eligible. I think 8-4, 7-5. I don't think that's a reality right now, especially with the way that this Nebraska team performed this afternoon. I think now is to focus on trying to get better and be competitive with Ohio State if you can. And then when you welcome in UCLA in 2 weeks here in Lincoln, you go out there and you play your A game from beginning to end and try to get that 6th win to where you can become bowl eligible. I think that's going to be the big hurdle that you got to climb to try to get this program improving and moving forward and build up more confidence.
Will, thanks for the phone call. Appreciate you tuning in. 489-1240 to get in on Real Red Reaction. That's just it, though, guys, is we haven't seen a complete performance yet. And now 7 games are in the books. You've seen moments, but you just don't see much adjustment. And maybe there weren't any adjustments. It was just execution versus adjustments. But Nebraska got ran all over. And Nebraska at the line of scrimmage had no fight. And I think what I have seen going into the bye week, we know that, all right, Rutgers may have been built up a little bit. Colorado looks like they're getting better. Illinois is still pretty solid, but Nebraska's going the wrong direction. Going the wrong direction when it comes to points per performance, going the wrong direction when it comes to yards allowed and points allowed by this defense. And right now they look like not even a mid-tier team in the Big Ten. You got 18 teams in the league.
We have Greg on the line here.
All right. Greg, thanks for calling. Welcome into Real Red Reaction. Go for it.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. I am so angry, steam going out my ears. I just do not understand this offensive staff. Is Thomas getting trumped where he can't teach Dylan to not throw off his back foot? When do you hire a wide receiver coach to come learn to coach at a place like Nebraska? They need to dump this offensive staff and bring in one, because this is the same junk that Mike Riley tried to run, and it is not working at all. Excuses aside from last year and injuries, they got players this year, and they are not using them. I am so ticked. I probably won't even watch the Ohio State game next week.
Well, folks turned off. Our old buddy Jaybird chimed in. Bill and I were out back watching the fourth quarter because we're masochists. And
Oh, wow.
and old Jaybird's like, I turned her off. It's like, well, unfortunately, work won't let us turn it off.
And
they've got to settle on something. What can they be versus what they want to be, Elijah?
Greg, let me ask you the question. With Ohio State looming, do you make changes now, or do you wait till the end of the season?
You make changes now because you're looking at an offer. I mean, you're going to get UCLA, and because of the kicking situation with Foley, you're going to lose 13-10 at home.
So you would take a complete overhaul of the offensive coaching staff right now versus winning another game. Versus any chances of winning other games.
There's no guarantee they're going to win another game with the new staff or with the
exactly
staff or with
so just kill them all, just knock them all out, and then brand new group. Let's just start fresh.
Yeah, because your defense is giving up. They cannot carry the games every single week.
So what offensive staff would you like to have be here versus what's currently here?
You've got some guys around the program that are capable.
Right. And I might even look at that OC that Prime fired last year.
He's at San Diego State now.
He's head coach. Greg, I don't think they're going to make in-season changes. They're going to try and, this is being the messenger, I think, get better and work harder and fix. I know that's not what you want to hear, but I don't think Rhule is going to let anyone twist. I don't think he's going to, go Tony Montana here as soon as they land.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I remember sitting there crying when Nebraska would lose to Oklahoma and thinking Tom Osborne will never get that monkey off his back. But I'm just tired of this garbage, man.
It's not. That's the thing we have to deal with is patience. We have to have patience with the process and let it go versus just coming in with a flamethrower and getting rid of everybody. That's gonna put us 5 steps back again. We've done that with Riley. We did that with Callahan. We did it with Riley. We did it with Scott. We've done it with everybody.
And I got accused of being an apologist when I said the same thing a year ago, JP, because Nebraska was right there on the very front door of getting that 6th win. And of course, they'd never got that 6th win. And there were some folks on here that accused me of being apologist because This is a brand new system. This is just in the rehab process, if you will, of trying to make this program better. I think we're still in that position as well. You're a lot better than you were. I think you're a lot better than you were a year ago. Obviously, this game did not help measures of getting better. But if you get rid of your offensive coaching staff mid-season, I mean, you're really shooting yourself in the foot. And you might as well. You might as well. You know what? You might as well just forfeit the rest of your season if you're going to do that.
Exactly.
Seriously.
I don't know what the answer is, but what you had a year ago was an offense that shifted to a quarterback run offense because that's what you had. What you did now is you went out and got a 5-star recruit, but what are you doing to help him out? You went to the portal to help him out with receivers. You went to the portal to help him out. Greg, thanks for the phone call with some of those receiver options. You've got a defense that is good. Despite today, it's a good defense, but it's not complimentary football. So really, after a week of self-scouting, the disappointment is not only the result, but how you looked to contribute to that 56-7, fellas.
And it didn't help that Gus was getting basically burying us with every comment he made throughout the TV broadcast. It made us look even worse than we probably are. But
Gus could have, been, he was ill and he missed the Oklahoma game a couple of years ago. Gus could have been strolling around the student section today and it wouldn't have mattered. It was a little annoying to hear him continue the infomercial, but you want to stop the praises, get off the field on 3rd and 8, score a touchdown when you're in the red zone, make a tackle, and don't give up a 22-yard run 7 times over or whatever the explosive play number was. Nebraska just outmatched physically, and Nebraska had no answer. And then you started turtling a little bit where you just kept getting shots to the head. Elijah, who's with us?
Bob's on the line.
Bob, thanks for calling. Welcome into Real Red Reaction, powered by Slim Chickens.
Well, thanks. I'm just hurt and angry, and I thought maybe I would get to enjoy Nebraska in a bowl game before I hit 70. But I turn 70 next February. But I don't believe it's going to happen, Chris. I don't think we're going to go to a bowl game after this. I mean, going forward now, look what you got. You got UCLA, USC, Wisconsin, Ohio State, and Iowa. And unless one of those teams like Iowa or Wisconsin maybe falters and Nebraska does something different, I don't know. I've been a Huskers fan since, Chris, I told you about this before. I've been a Huskers fan since when Devaney was there. And I've never quit following, and I'm not going to, but it's after this is just embarrassing. I don't know the answers for any of this either. It's just,
You thought it'd be different because of you're making another coaching change. You thought it'd be different. The guy talks a great game. The team's shown some improvement under his watch. And now you're to this moment in year 2 against a ranked team. You thought the team would play better, may not win it, but they got annihilated. And it's same song, next verse is how you feel.
Well, that's why I just saw angry. Now, like you said, or somebody said earlier, same song, different verse now. It's just same old, same old.
Well, and your patience, Bob. Thanks for the phone call, bud. Appreciate you listening. Guys, that's what you're running into. You're running into this mesh of past staffs, the new hope, a little bit of hype, and then Lucy pulls the football. And I'm not saying that's what this is, but that's what today,
a great analogy.
That's what today feels like for a lot of Nebraska fans, because you thought they were ready to go. Bill, you thought they were ready for the moment. You got a 5-star quarterback. You've got some wideouts that have done something at other programs, but you just don't have anything you can lean on offensively. You can't run it, or you don't want to run it, and you're just not as good as a lot of us thought they might be. And you're not trending upward. You're not getting better as the year goes on. And that's also been a Rhule trait.
I think what's really most disappointing about today, and this does go to coaching, is they just didn't seem ready to play. It's an 11 a.m. kickoff, and it looked like they were sleepy. They'd had a week off, the bye, and I've said for years, I'm not there with Bob age wise, but I go back a ways, and I've always said Nebraska fans can accept a loss if it's competitive, and if you play well, play hard, and you end up on the wrong end of the scoreboard by 2 points or 3, that people get it. And I think to a certain extent, the Illinois game, as disappointing as it was, you go, that's a typical kind of Big Ten game, and they're pretty well coached with Bielema, and it was a tough loss, and there's an if and a then and a woulda and a shoulda. This thing was over. The body language of that football team, watching the pregame as we did, and the way Indiana marched down the field, and it was once it was 7-0, and then they fumble on the 4th and 2 and don't go to get points on the board. All of that, it just seemed. And I said the other day on Average Joe, if Nebraska got down by 2 scores, I worried about Nebraska's ability to climb that hill and match them and win the game. But when it got to be 14-0, it might as well have been 40-0.
It felt like it.
Yeah, that they're not coming back. And then the way the first half ended, the second half started. I mean, just a counselor would tell you to leave the relationship.
That's so wrong.
We just can't. We just can't quit them.
We can't quit Nebraska football. But
when Nebraska looks like it quit, and they're sitting back.
I don't know that
all
they
the quit, or did they
just
room.
I don't know that they quit, or they just get their ass kicked. That's what I don't. I mean, it's blurred for me.
It's both. They got their ass kicked and then they quit.
or were they? Or were they?
I don't know. I just think they got their butt kicked.
Were they intimidated at the beginning?
I don't think there was intimidation. They're just not ready to match what Indiana had. And I never thought I'd utter that in my life in football.
Well, and we kept digging ourselves holes. Like we had good momentum until Dowdell fumbled the ball. We had good momentum till we made this mistake. We had good momentum till this turnover. And in coaching youth football and then playing high school and college football myself, you have to learn to, okay, I got to wipe that clean and go to the next and keep working on your game. And every time you're right. At one point in time, they literally just gave up because they had nothing left to be able to do against Indiana.
And I'm not asking to ship anybody out, but I've seen enough of Dowdell right now with as many shots as he's gotten. It's just not gotten any better with him, and it's not all on him.
No, it's not.
It's not all on him, but I'm ready to see something else in the run game, Elijah. But we need to go to a caller and a break.
Hey guys, we have time for one caller here, and then we got to take a quick commercial break because we gotta get those in. But we do have John on the line.
John, thanks for listening to Real Red Reaction on KFOR. Go for it.
Schmitty, O-line and D-line are the problem. You can't control those. You got issues. It all stems from there.
Yep, I agree. That's what I said about 20 minutes ago. It all started on the lines of scrimmage today.
And it was bad, and it got worse, and there was no answer. So is the answer just keep coaching them? Is the answer personnel? What do you do? You got 6 games left.
Keep doing the same thing over and hoping different results, I guess.
Yeah.
I think that's what it looks like. Definition of insanity, right?
Correct.
Hey, can I do the show like JP where I look like I'm in one of those A&E mafia shows where I'm in the witness protection program and nobody can identify me?
We need the voice.
It's your roommate. Coleman, it's your roommate from the Orange Bowl.
Hey, bud.
From the Orange Bowl.
Yeah, I want to. I don't want anybody to identify me.
No.
Like JP.
Did you hear that?
I did.
The roommate from the Orange Bowl.
That's it. Johnny, it's great to see you. Great to hear from you. You're the best.
O-line, D-line, man. We don't have it, you ain't going to do nothing.
John, thanks for the phone call today.
John, appreciate you, brother.
Hey, JP, you need that mosaic over your face, JP, to make it look official.
See, I thought JP was just starting a darkness retreat to get over this one, you know?
I think he doesn't want to be identified.
Plenty of light behind me. What the hell? No, it's because I look too much like Matt Rhule, so it's like I'm trying to be incognito and being somebody completely different.
He's going to burst into the living room and start swinging.
I'll like Carl Fellini, huh?
Yeah. Where's Carl? Where's Carl? It's the Real Red Reaction.
He's getting the crap getting beat out of by a fan. That's what he's getting going on.
Chickens. 14th and Pine Lake. Eat those feelings. 56-7. Nebraska dominated. 84th and Old Shady. Get to Slim Chickens today. A timeout. We'll hear from Matt Rhule. More of your phone calls. Get in at 489-1240, 800-825-5865. Elijah Herbal, Jeff Moats, JP, Bill Dolman, Chris Schmidt. Real Red Reaction continues on KFOR, KFORnow.com.
Hey, this is Dan Bongino. As a former NYPD police officer, Secret Service agent, and a TV host, I'll bring Nebraska an honest perspective on the day's events. I'll debunk the nonsense you hear in the media and give you the real insight on what's really going on. Join me, Dan Bongino, weekdays from 11 to 2 on FM 101.5 and 1240 AM KFOR.
Odd Oil and Propane, with their new showroom at 625 West O Street, is proud to present the new Phoenix Grill, the grill that cooks everything. The Phoenix Grill allows you to roast, steam, smoke, and of course grill, designed to enhance the flavor of food with built-in features to reduce flavor damage and flare-ups. Phoenix Grill lets you cook worry-free for great tasting food and consistent results. Come see the full line of Phoenix Grills available exclusively at Odd Oil and Propane, West O Street, Lincoln, now open on Saturdays.
Listen to this station anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Odyssey. That's AUDACY.
Nebraska has one clear choice for cancer care and 4 extraordinary locations. Nebraska Medicine Fred and Pamela Buffett Cancer Centers, anchored by the state's only NCI-designated cancer center with the most specialized cancer experts in the state and personalized treatment you won't find anywhere else. Dedicated to giving you the best possible outcome. Nebraska Medicine Fred and Pamela Buffett Cancer Centers, Omaha, Bellevue, Village Point, and Kearney. Find a location near you at nebraskamed.com/cancer. What do Omaha, Bellevue, Village Point, and Kearney have in common? When it comes to extraordinary cancer care, everything. Because that's where you'll find Nebraska Medicine Fred and Pamela Buffett Cancer Centers. Anchored by the state's only NCI-designated cancer center, we pioneer leading-edge research that results in life-saving clinical trials and treatment options. Nebraska Medicine Fred and Pamela Buffett Cancer Centers. 4 incredible locations, 1 extraordinary name. Find a doctor at nebraskamed.com/cancer.
Chatting today with Debbie about her experience with 3-Day Kitchen and Bath. Now, Debbie, you had a huge project. How did it go?
My experience was wonderful. I worked with Taylor, and if he was my son, I'd be very proud.
That's quite the endorsement. What were the details of your project?
I had 2 bathrooms done, a new kitchen, and a pretty large flooring project.
And did they get it done in the time frame you were expecting?
Well, it took 2 weeks because it was a big job.
Did the quality of work meet your expectations?
Yes, it was excellent.
Would you recommend 3-Day Kitchen and Bath to someone that was deliberating on redoing their kitchen or bathroom?
I would, and I have already.
Sounds like you'd give them a 5-star rating.
I did.
There you have it. Another 3-Day Kitchen and Bath satisfied customer. Request your in-home consultation today at 877-229-8829 or online at 3daykitchen.com.
It's about time at 3-Day Kitchen and Bath.
Nebraska has one clear choice for cancer care and 4 extraordinary locations. Nebraska Medicine Fred and Pamela Buffett Cancer Centers, anchored by the state's only NCI-designated cancer center with the most specialized cancer experts in the state and personalized treatment you won't find anywhere else. Dedicated to giving you the best possible outcome. Nebraska Medicine Fred and Pamela Buffett Cancer Centers, Omaha, Bellevue, Village Point, and Kearney. Find a location near you at nebraskamed.com/cancer. What do Omaha, Bellevue, Village Point, and Kearney have in common when it comes to extraordinary cancer care? Everything. Because that's where you'll find Nebraska Medicine Fred and Pamela Buffett Cancer Centers. Anchored by the state's only NCI-designated cancer center, we pioneer leading-edge research that results in life-saving clinical trials and treatment options. Nebraska Medicine Fred and Pamela Buffett Cancer Centers. 4 incredible locations, 1 extraordinary name. Find a doctor at nebraskamed.com/cancer.
So what will we talk about in the week ahead?
An October surprise could be dropped into the presidential campaign. Surprise or not, the attacks and message wars will escalate in the final 2 weeks. We'll also follow developments in the Middle East after the killing of Hamas's leader. News that affects you.
We've got you covered.
This is the Real Red Reaction Show. Phones are open now, 402-489-1240.
Back with you here on KFOR, KFORnow.com. Real Red Reaction, powered by Slim Chickens. 14th in Pine Lake and 84th at Old Shady. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Jeff Moats, Bill Dolman. JP is out wandering in traffic. Nebraska destroyed today, 56-7. There's so much here in the stream. A hashtag that has popped up with a lot of blame towards Nebraska's offensive coordinator. I think John was on the money with his phone call. The lines of scrimmage were an issue today. They've not always been an issue, they being the defensive line. They have been flat out dominant. They've kept Nebraska in ball games. They've won some ball games for Nebraska this season and last, but you're now into the second half of the season after the bye week. 7 points, 5 turnovers, a freshman that hasn't gotten a lot of help and that hasn't helped always either with some of his decision making. You knew there'd be some growing pains, but that kind of doubles down the need to be able to run the football and be physical. And a lot of us thought Nebraska had a chance to win today or be competitive today because of this team's physicality. Tyler is with us here on Real Red Reaction on KFOR, KFORnow.com. Tyler, thanks for calling. Go for it.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. So I guess my biggest takeaway that scares me the most about everything from this game is not just how bad overall we played, but it's actually the development of just the quarterback overall. It's scary how he has declined the last couple games. And what makes me most nervous is that people will look at his stats and things like that. And so people will think that maybe he's not playing that well, but the way that I look at today's game, I don't think the coaches put him in any situation today that really was going to set him up for success. So I don't know if that's something maybe you guys noticed, but everything from the play calling to the receivers not getting open, every time he dropped back, he had to go to his second or third option. It was just, he was not set up for success in this game at all. And then getting behind with the defense, obviously, but.
No, you're right. And I look at Dylan and I see some wow moments. I see some wow throws. But again, how much of the heavy lifting are you asking? And they said from the get-go, man, we're not going to ease him in. We're not going to baby him. And you're going to live with some good. You're going to live with some bad. But just from a semblance of competency, it makes sense to have more hands on deck. And we're at that point, fellas, where this offense is just problematic. It's like, okay, they want to be fun and sexy and throw it around and try and bring in high level talent. Wonderful. But when it gets down to it, push comes to shove, it is going to be the lines of scrimmage. And listen, I think there are some guys on the offensive line that are good players, and you have what you have at running back. So you got to make some chicken salad here. And they did it a year ago. They've got to reinvent themselves here a little bit offensively and find something that will work. And the short passing game, for example, Tyler, I love getting your quarterback in rhythm. I like the idea of getting a guy like Barney or Lloyd in a short space and letting them use that wiggle and then their explosiveness. The problem is it's the same 2 or 3 guys being asked to block that don't do it or can't do it. You're either getting a penalty flagged on you, or it's a loss of 1 or a minimal gain, because it's the same 2 or 3 guys that are whiffing with your blocks downfield. You can't get an explosive run because your blocks downfield aren't happening either. If you are able to get past the first level, God forbid. So they expect a different result, and it's not happening, and they've not gone further down the 2 deep to find folks that can do it. Maybe the best guys are out there trying to do it and they can't do it. They keep calling it like they're going to get a different result because they've worked on it, but it's not happened.
Yeah. I feel like with running back, I don't think that, you can't just plug anybody in there, but you can. We can plug and play a guy in running back, I feel like, and we can get some production out of that spot. Just who that's going to be, we still haven't even found out. But our line is, or was at least to start the season, was very veteran. So when you're looking at it, it's like you're just trying to figure out where the holes are in it, and it's just I'm playing it more into the play calling. So I mean, I don't know if you noticed, but how many times Indiana ran like fade routes out to the sidelines today?
Yep.
And they completed about 4 or 5 of those. And the only option when you throw those is a receiver's either going to catch it or you're going to overthrow it, and it's just going to be an out of bounds incomplete pass. There's not going to be any opportunity for an interception, pretty much, for the most part. So we didn't even run a single one of those when we were in the red zone. How many different times? Like, we can't even just run a fade route out to the sideline that would, or a out route to the sideline that would be a toss-up ball. Like, and I'm sure Raiola could throw that just as well as that Indiana.
Well, and he did throw one, Tyler, and what happened? The guy dropped it. I mean, he put it beautifully, and it was dropped
right in his hands.
And then it's 3rd down. You can't run it in. And then it's 4th down, and they sack you and bury your head in the sand.
Yeah.
So from bad to worse.
Tyler, thanks for
Tyler, appreciate you, man. 489-1240 on Real Red Reaction, powered by Slim Chickens. Jeff Moats is here. Elijah Herbal's here. JP from 96 Kicks. Bill Dolman, Chris Schmidt, and keep your stream comments coming. And Rye checks in and asks the question, or makes the statement, hope we can finally wake up after today. I'm sure Rhule's going to get after them in practice, make it way harder for the upcoming week.
Yeah, remember the Sunday night practice after Michigan last year? Maybe they could do
I think
a Saturday night practice this
year.
year.
You need Saturday night under the lights for sure. And that's how do you come back as a coach, Bill? What do you say to the guys? You didn't see this coming and you got destroyed. And I'll say this. I mean, is Indiana sustainable? Doesn't matter. The here and now is they're 7-0. They'll probably be in the top 10. There's a chance they get into the playoff if they keep rolling. They look better than advertised today. They're really good. They're very balanced. They're aggressive. They were prepared. They were well coached. They were confident. You've still got a confidence issue with this football team. That is growing, it feels like, from your quarterback. It's absolutely a real thing when it comes to special teams because of what you're not willing to do when you're in scoring position. And now we go to the defensive side of the football, and it's been a unit that, at some point the levee's going to break, and against better teams or balanced teams, they haven't been dominant. And it's getting beat physically at the line of scrimmage, but it's also probably knowing going in, we've got to be great again. And while that's fine against a Rutgers, while that's fine against a Purdue, you play somebody with a pulse, and it hasn't ended well.
Well, first of all, to address Tiger Shark saying that Nebraska is going to go to the Durex Used Condom Bowl, maybe so, but there will still be 70,000 Nebraska fans there all buying the T-shirt, okay? So anyway, if that's where they go, Husker fans will follow. Look, you're not going to hear much about, I don't think, comments toward the coaching staff. The post-Michigan practice was a tell that he was not happy with the performance of the players, that, sure, you're going to lose to Michigan, but the way they lost, that deserved a Sunday practice. Nebraska responded
and played
well and won the following week. on a Friday night at Illinois. But you're not going to have Matt Rhule come to the podium on Monday or Thursday of next week and talk about any direct comments about the way his coaching staff is performing. He may say, we got to get better on special teams. I think he did say something like, I told Tony that we got to challenge that defense a little bit more and do something different, which they did against Rutgers. Any comments about what is going on with the coaching staff will be made by whatever decisions are made with the coaching staff after the season is over with, right? They're not going to get rid of anybody midseason. That would totally disrupt recruiting, by the way, because those guys have, developed relationships with players. So forget about that. You also don't want to make pointed comments about assistant coaches, again, because of the recruiting thing. What's your status? Are you going to be there?
And I think, Bill, to add on to that, you're completely correct on this too, because the people that are, they're putting up these messages on the chat sounding off that the coaching staff needs to be replaced right now. I think obviously they're just blowing off steam out of frustration, but if you think about the deeper consequences that could happen if you were to make some midseason changes, that's going to throw everything off kilter in what you're trying to build up. And especially when it comes to recruiting, when you're trying to get kids to come in to your program next season and beyond. Again, that's just not the solution. And I agree with you. If any changes are going to be made, it's going to be after the season is over with. And there could be some changes made, especially as I've alluded to earlier in this broadcast, that if the special teams doesn't get any better, right now, is it safe to say perhaps that Ed Foley may be in a little bit of a hot seat position? Right now, the way things are looking, perhaps.
They've got to play better. They've got to coach better, and they got to find better players. If they're getting the most out of what they have on the roster, then they've got to go get better players. They're working on all of that. And right now, the rub for a lot of Nebraska fans, you got to think is, all right, it's a rebuild. You get that, but the renovation here has been an ongoing thing for years. It spanned staffs to the point where you've brought in new home builders and interior designers time and time again. And right now, you expected to be further along, maybe not win, but not get destroyed and embarrassed. And what's more salt to this, if you're a Nebraska fan, is the fact that this guy came from little James Madison, brought 27 of his dudes, and then annihilated you. And part of it is also the old branding. The branding is you're a football school with all the sources, resources, and a sweet new locker room. It shouldn't happen to you. Yes, you got to still go do it on the field. I get it, but you should be beyond this point. A lot of Nebraska fans feel in year two, look like you belong on Big Noon, for the love of God. And they didn't. They should have been on, BTN pay-per-view. The Ocho, something. That's what the effort looked like.
Why couldn't we have been on Peacock this week?
Right.
Oh, no
kidding.
kidding.
Wasn't watching. Yeah, we needed the audible halftime. We've made an executive decision.
Maybe they ought to do that for next week's game with Ohio State. If that's the case, take it off.
Move to Peacock. Make sure you're wearing the standard uniform. Everybody wears a standard thing, and everybody sleeps in and gets plenty of sleep before the game. Maybe that'll help.
The channel it should have been on was Comedy Central, because that was a joke of a performance.
Bada bing.
Tip your waiter, try the veal. 489-1240 to get in.
One quick note: when you talk about James Madison, all those kids that came into Indiana, Signetti's a great recruiter. Look what he did when he was at Alabama. He's just a very good recruiter.
He brought in guys that have won, and that's the other thing you're dealing with here.
And
guys
I think
that haven't won in Lincoln, and guys that are really young right now that aren't ready to step up and be that leader or top dog role.
I think this is what set Indiana apart from Nebraska too. Not only is Indiana a good football team, they got some good recruits that came in when he took over that job. Plain and simple. These are high caliber athletes that he brought in, and they came out and they played pretty good football, plain and simple.
Plenty more of your comments here on the stream. Can find us several different ways. Real Red Reaction YouTube channel, like and subscribe there. Hail Varsity YouTube channel, like and subscribe. Hail Varsity Radio Twitter. Give that a follow. KFOR Facebook and KFOR Twitter. Give all of those a follow, all the different platforms and ways to get in touch with us. YouTube channel's going nuts, so we'll get to some more of those comments. 489-1240 to get in on Real Red Reaction. 800-825-5865. Motzi, you are shaking your head disappointedly.
I'm just looking at some of the chat messages here. You know, Brendan points out, if we get to 6, are you still disappointed? I'm saying right now, your goal is to get that 6th win and go to a bowl game. The whole goal of this season has changed in a matter of a couple of games. I think Illinois was the start of it. And I think this game in particular has really changed the dynamic of what this season is going to be about for Nebraska. Get that 6th win, get to the bowl game, and then play your butt off the rest of the season as best you can.
Hello,
it's not getting any easier.
And proudly put that used condom trophy in your trophy case.
Bring that trophy back to Lincoln.
Matt Rhule is now, the stats after today, he's now 0-6 with a chance to get the 6th win.
They're going to get a win. Look, they got 2 games. They got a couple games.
There's 2 home games left that they could try to win.
It's going to be 0-7 after next week.
Well, that's a guarantee. I mean, Ohio State's going to be a challenge anyway, but UCLA, we can beat them. USC hasn't been great. We can win that game if we need to or have a chance to. Wisconsin is beatable too.
Who's this?
Well, as a fan, none of us play. It's true. You're correct. Thank you. But like the Nebraska team has a chance to beat UCLA, Wisconsin, and possibly USC.
I worry about the mentality. I do. After a performance like this, with what's
mental toughness,
with what's likely going to happen next week, you're going to get taken to the woodshed back-to-back weeks. What is the mental state of that team now? Back-to-back years being 1 game away from a bowl game. You can't win in November last year. You get blown out back-to-back your first 2 chances in 2024. Sure, UCLA looks winnable now. USC looks winnable now. What does it look like 2 weeks from now? That's my question, because
UCLA just went cross country and won a shootout against Rutgers. Now, part of it is they allowed 35 points, make that 30. They allowed 30 plus points to that Rutgers offense. But right now, Nebraska's offense doesn't look capable of doing anything except going 3 and out or not scoring in the red zone. We have.
You're right about that. There's no creativity. There's no creativity to Nebraska's offense right now, and sometimes looks like sometimes plays are called because hey, it's in the playbook. Whether it's going to work or not, let's just call that and see what happens. And every now and then there's one that like those inside handoffs or pitches to Janiron Bonner and sweeps around and gets in the end zone. The Barney touchdown was pretty creative today, but for the most part, I don't think you look at Nebraska's offense and think that's pretty innovative, even if you have a freshman quarterback. But there's a lot of freshmen around the country who are doing some pretty spectacular things. I don't know if you heard this or not, but Alabama has a guy who's 17 years old. Breaking news, right? But not a quarterback. But look, there's just not a lot of creativity to what's going on. Nebraska is very predictable. They've been that way with whoever gets into the backfield at the running back position. They can't find a consistent. I didn't know Quentin Ives was still on the team, to be honest with you. Emmett Johnson finally gets his chances in like the late second quarter or third quarter and seems to get some productivity. And then he joins JP in the witness protection program. So I'm baffled by some of the things, and great that Fedoni is making some plays and he's open and he's a reliable receiver, but it's like that's the guy now. We got to throw it to Fedoni. Let's just throw it to Fedoni again. It's 3rd down and 7. Where's Fedoni? There's nothing else that is creative in picking up 15, 20 yards or a first down. And, I'm excited about Dylan Raiola's future, but right now there's no threat to run whatsoever. And I get that he's a pro-style quarterback, but there are quarterbacks in the pros who are a threat to run, right? Tom Brady may not have been, but Lamar, I don't expect him to be. Kyler Murray, I don't expect him to be. But you'd think that you could get 5 yards with a little more heady play that gives you a threat. Heinrich Harburg, when he was in the game, you're thinking, okay, he can run the ball. He's going to get you 5. Why they took him out on that 3rd down and 1, I still don't understand.
Well, they probably could have run the option too in that situation, Bill.
Well, and then when they did run the option, when they did run,
but why don't they do that more if they're going to run the ball? If they want to get into if they're a 3rd and short situation, why not run the option to get extra yards out of it?
Because that is taking the 5-star off the field, Jeff.
Well,
I'm being sarcastic, but
I know
you're going to run the option.
You want to win a game. You want to try to win the ball game. You got to use a little bit of strategy, don't you, when you play?
Well, the other part of that is they ran the option. What happened? Your running back, or I should say your wide receiver, tackled the cornerback and got a kind of block in the back penalty. Let's take a timeout. We have a couple breaks we had to squeeze in here before 4. We'll take a timeout. Can we squeeze Rhule in after that?
Out of time.
All right. Quick timeout. More Real Red Reaction coming up, powered by Slim Chickens. Matt Rhule on the way. That's Jeff Moats, JP, Bill Dolman, Elijah Herbal, Chris Schmidt. Here on KFOR, KFORnow.com.
Hey, it's Bill Hook. And Will Wilson from the Morning Hookup. Coming up on a Monday on the Morning Hookup, we'll welcome back Omaha World Herald's Evan Bland. We'll recap Nebraska at Indiana and talk about all the NFL action. That and a whole lot more in the Morning Hookup from 10 to 11 right here on KFOR.
When you want a brand new kitchen, there's nothing to it. There's a brand new way to do it. 3-Day Kitchen and Bath.
Bill talks about his experience with 3-Day Kitchen and Bath.
We had 2 bathrooms. It was from the 1950s. We didn't know what to expect. We were a little skeptical that they could actually do this in that short a period of time. They did an amazing job. Brand new tub, shower, toilet, sinks, cabinetry, flooring, tile, you name it.
Were you happy with the finished product?
Very impressive, and we're just anxious to show it off to people now.
So you'd recommend 3-Day Kitchen and Bath?
Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, we can probably get a few more miles out of our kitchen, but when the time comes to do that, we'll definitely call them back.
It's about time.
3 days or less
at 3-Day Kitchen and Bath.
Lowe's knows it's easier to make the right calls when you have the right team. That's why our Lowe's Red Vest associates can help with game time decisions. Plus, use in-store mode on the Lowe's app to find what you need. Under pressure at home and want it soon? Order online by 2 p.m. to get it same day. Same day valid on eligible in-stock items and select zip codes only, subject to driver availability. Fees vary based on purchase. Exclusions and more terms apply. See Lowe's.com/same-day delivery for details.
Take your Husker game day to the next level with Venue Catering and Events. Our packages are perfect for 12 to 16 Husker fans and make your game day preparation a breeze. With a fresh new menu for every game, we'll keep your party going all season long. Watch the Huskers take down UCLA while enjoying our deconstructed beef sandwiches, buffalo chicken dip, tomato cucumber salad, and more. Start your order today at yourvenue.net/Huskers. That's yourvenue.net/Huskers. Pillar Restaurant Group is Lincoln's home for celebration. With a hand-cut steak and seasonal cocktails for your anniversary at Venue Restaurant and Lounge, a pitcher of mimosas and brunch favorites for your birthday at Piedmont Bistro, a 16-inch sub and freshly made cookie after your kids win the big game at Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs, or for your wedding in a luxurious downtown ballroom with Venue Catering and Events. Drink, dine, gather with Pillar Restaurant Group. Learn more and order a gift card for your next celebration at prgnebraska.com. That's prgnebraska.com.
Hi, I'm Tony Dungy. Our son Jordan needed the specialized care that only Shriners Hospitals for Children could provide, and it was incredible to see the love and dedicated care he received. Shriners Hospitals for Children is a healthcare system dedicated to improving the lives of kids with pediatric conditions.
Shriners Hospitals for Children is changing the world through caring for kids. Please give today at 1-800-241-4438 or at shrinershospitalsforchildren.org.
Our daughter Lee was born with brittle bone disease.
Thanks to Shriners Hospitals for Children, I can go to school, play, and do fun things like other kids. They've helped me so much. They're like my family. We need your help. Please donate today.
Shriners Hospitals for Children is changing the world through caring for kids. Please give today at 1-800-241-4438 or at shrinershospitalsforchildren.org.
I'm in the car next to you on the highway.
I sit in front of you on the bus. I'm 1 out of every 6 Americans, and I'm struggling with hunger. This isn't an uncontrollable epidemic. There's enough food in this country to feed every hungry person. Please, visit feedingamerica.org today and find your local food bank. Every dollar you donate helps provide 7 meals for those around you, quietly struggling with hunger. Together, we're Feeding America.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Hello, I'm Jose Hernandez, and I have been using a wheelchair since my accident in 1995.
My name is Andrea Dalzal, and I've been using a wheelchair since I was 5 years old.
I guess if I had one message for the general public, it would be that I appreciate your help. But please, ask first.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that I've actually got everything under control.
I think people get nervous. They don't know how to act, so they pretend I'm not there.
What probably bothers me the most is when waiters talk to my companion and not directly to me.
I think everyone with a disability can relate to that parking spot problem.
We know you're just parking in a disabled spot for a second, but please, don't. We're just looking for the same respect and consideration as everyone else.
United Spinal Association is dedicated to enhancing the quality of life of people living with spinal cord injuries and disorders. Download our disability etiquette booklet at unitedspinal.org.
High school football Friday night. Lincoln East plays Lincoln Southeast. I'm Jeff Moats. You can join me for the play-by-play coverage.
Get your thoughts on now. The Real Red Reaction Show is unfiltered at KFOR.
Continuing on here with the Real Red Reaction Show as Nebraska drops a game to Indiana, 56-7, the final score. We've been reacting for about the past 90 minutes. We'll take you up to the top of the hour here on KFOR. Elijah Herbal joined alongside Bill Dolman and Jeff Moats. We'll see how much longer we take it on the stream after the top of the hour, as well as we do have Matt Rhule's post-game press conference audio. And guys, that is where I want to go here before we get to that. Are you guys concerned at all by the comment with Matt Rhule saying how little he expected a performance like this today? It's one of those things that stands out to me as I don't want to say an indictment, but it doesn't feel like the right thing to say after a game like this.
I don't know. I would like to hear his full comments. I'm looking forward to hearing the audio, but you would think that he would have a pretty good pulse on his team, and you know, we get such a behind the scenes look, and granted everything is edited when you watch Chasing 3 and you get all fired up by those pregame speeches and whatnot. And Nebraska was looking forward to the bye, and you know, leaving the bye, getting the bye after a win and going on the road to take on a quality opponent. And it just looked like it was, you know, there was some quit and give up, like they just were not ready. And that's the most, again, I go back to what I said earlier and I've said for years, Nebraska fans can be disappointed with the loss and disheartened with the loss, but don't lose without, if you're not competitive and you don't compete and you don't look ready to play, you don't look like you want to play. And I think that was an example of it. I can think of some of those really ugly Callahan games, like the 70-20 loss at Kansas, or there was a loss at Texas Tech. And granted, when you're hanging 70, that's one thing, but it just didn't look like those teams were even like they were just checking a box. And I kind of felt like that's what it was today. There was just this, oh, this is on our schedule. I guess we had to go and it's early. I don't really want to play early, but okay, it's road game. We'll see what happens. That's the most disheartening thing. And that's why Nebraska fans have reason to be as angry as they are today. It's beyond disappointment. And you don't want it to go from anger to apathy, which is where Nebraska was for the latter stages of the Frost era. Anger had given away to apathy, and the team looked apathetic. And if the team looks apathetic, that's the worst. That's the absolute worst.
I think that's scary if you're a Nebraska fan, if they're apathetic. I guess I'd be interested to see in context too, with those comments, and curious to know what happened between the end of the Rutgers game 2 weeks ago to today? What happened? Were things going well in practice? Were people getting healed up? Were they getting the proper rest? Was it poor planning? Were you underestimating this Indiana team? I guess that'd be the question I'd want to have answered. What happened between then to today? Because as we've talked about already on this show, Nebraska just came out flat from the very beginning when Indiana got the ball to start the game. And the kickoff return that went out at the 1 yard line is, I think, the telltale sign of what really set the tone today overall, in addition to the performance for Nebraska, both on the offensive and defensive lines. It didn't seem like that those guys were, hyped up, if you will, maybe prepared, or again, maybe they were thrown off by really how good Indiana is. I mean, you've seen video of them probably, in recent weeks and what they can do. And you would think you'd be better prepared for something like that.
I guess that's mostly the heart of my question that I asked whenever we opened up this segment of Matt Rhule saying post-game, like, I thought we were prepared. I didn't think it'd go like that. I thought we'd play well, to showing up on Saturday and getting beat worse than you did whenever the eventual national champion came to your house last year.
Well, yeah. And again, if I were to expect Nebraska to lose this game today, I would say maybe a touchdown, maybe no more than 2 touchdowns, and that's it. Not a blowout of 56-7. 49 points. That's a shock. But I think for some people that have been kind of, underestimating what Matt Rhule could do or could potentially do, maybe it doesn't come as a surprise. But you would think that the way that they played, even in that overtime loss to Illinois, Nebraska had some vulnerability, issues in that overtime period. But I think there have been times when they won their games this year that, especially late in the game, why didn't they score in the second half against Colorado? And there have been some people that have pointed out some issues with them when they played Northern Iowa, and they beat Northern Iowa by 31 points. So is it a focus thing? Is it, are we overlooking things when we prepare for opponents? You got Ohio State coming up next week. I still, and I know UCLA won today, but I still think that's probably one winnable game for this Nebraska team. The others are kind of a toss-up. I think Wisconsin's going to be, tougher than people think as well. And who knows what will happen with them at Iowa.
Elijah, Bill,
before we start a new conversation, we do have about 60 seconds left here before we got to get back into regular programming on KFOR, just to let you know.
And keep with us on the Hail Varsity and Real Red Reaction YouTube, or we'll go digital here. We've been digital, but we'll stay digital for more of your comments. You can also call us. We can get the phone calls in on the YouTube channel, 489-1240. But things I want to tackle, we'll hear from Rhule coming up. But we asked some questions, guys, about how would Nebraska respond? How would Dylan Raiola respond after Rutgers? Some tough weather conditions. We'll get into all of that. We'll get to news here, but it's clear that this team's got to double down on finding a way to run the football with this offense and just be more detailed, be better executing. Mozi, love you, buddy. We'll see you on Monday. More Real Red Reaction on YouTube with Hail Varsity and Real Red Reaction YouTube coming up.
And we're live on YouTube, sticking live here as we don't need to take a break no more. So,
okay.
Oh, wow, that's jarring.
That's frightening. Absolutely frightening. We'll want to put a 30-minute cap on this thing or just keep on rocking? Loose Lip says it isn't happening, Schmitty. I had to sneak out, man. I was physically ill there for like 5 minutes. I'm not kidding.
I think a lot of people were watching that.
It was tough. Can we hear from Rhule? Should we hear Rhule?
Can you give me a half a second?
Sure,
I'm
that's
just going to get things edited, so maybe 30 seconds.
Bill, how would Dylan Raiola respond? And let me ask this as well. There are lots of people in this lovely state and around the country that check in on our show and love Nebraska football. We love talking Big Red football, good, bad, or ugly. It's been ugly today, but folks are all over Satterfield. They are. Folks questioned the hire, and I think I sent you guys the tweet. It was Evan Cooper that went on Twitter and quote tweeted the Husk guys who asked, if you're making $7 million a year, you can't get embarrassed like a first-year head coach. And Evan Cooper quote tweeted that, said ungrateful, emotional, nearsighted. And there are a lot of Nebraska fans that have a high level of frustration right now with the result and where things are in the journey, so to speak. And to be fair, it's still pretty early in the Matt Rhule era and journey. So I think he'll get it figured out. I think he'll fix it. He knows that he's going to have some hard discussions with his assistant coaches about getting their position groups to fix it. Downfield blocking from the wide receivers, finding the hole, seeing the hole, right? If you're the running back, and having a hard conversation with his offensive coordinator about an identity and direction, because it's a far cry from 75 yards in the fourth quarter and wanting to pound away. That's not what they are. And they've got to settle. But you're also going to have some input because you're going to talk to your players. And, if Sat is a problem, one way you can move off of him is if your quarterback thinks he's a problem. And I'm not saying there's any insinuation of that, but you can't keep living this way on offense if you're Dylan Raiola and what the game plan is, what they're being asked to do, asking you to do, and what you're capable of doing. So there needs to be, and I'm not saying give the keys to the 19-year-old, but I am saying if he's got some objections about what's going on, the coach will listen to that. Because what you can't have is this house of cards go down in flames with an upset quarterback. This is a player's era, like it or not. There's NIL. Players are going to be listened to, and you're going to not act based on their orders per se, but you are going to listen, and that's one way to navigate the offensive coordinator thing.
Every coach goes through periods of time when there's questions about whether or not you have the right personnel on your staff. Even Nick Saban did that through his run through, at Alabama. Do you have the right running backs coach? Do you have the right defensive line coach? Do you have the right coordinators and all of that? I mean, every coach goes through it. And, going back in time, look, Tom, there were questions with Tom. Do you have the right some of the most beloved assistant coaches in Nebraska football history.
Hated McBride every bowl game.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I was going to say that, I was going to drop the name, but some of the most beloved assistant coaches in Nebraska football history were often the targets of Tom's got to make a change, and then you end up going 60-3 and have one of the greatest runs in the history of college football, and those guys become Husker legends. Even for years. Defensive backs, people were screaming, turn around, get rid of Darlington. You got to turn around, look at the ball, right? And now everybody loves crazy Uncle George and has forever, and justifiably so. However, at some point, there is a body of work where you look at it and go, I love my buddy and I want to be loyal as best I can be. But am I loyal to one man, or am I loyal to 1.7 million people who put their heart and soul into the product that you put on the field?
Or how about the 120 guys on your roster?
That's true. So I never wanted, I guess maybe because I've grown up around coaches that have been around the profession, even long before I got into, the business of broadcasting and sportscasting. But sometimes you got to look at it and go, I love you, brother, but it's just not working out here. And before it gets really, really bad, I want to make sure you get set up for a place where you can go have some success. And maybe this just isn't it. And sometimes it's time as a head coach, you've got to make those decisions. And I think at the end of this season, there's going to be a lot of hard looks as to just where we are going with what Nebraska has with Dylan Raiola and his talents and the players that everybody believes they've got coming in, because there's all these stars on them. People are going to be taking a long, hard look as to what is this offense going to look like. And if it doesn't mesh with what those talents are, they're not going to come here. All right. And if there's criticism every week about the offense, those players are looking at it right now.
One of my big concerns whenever we discuss the coaching staff here is there's a couple position groups on the team where I look at the position group, and in a program where you preach development and getting better, I don't see the wide receivers getting better. Not just last year to this year, but this year itself. I don't see running backs getting better. The offensive line is not getting improved to the point they need to be. And maybe that's just because there hasn't been an influx of talent into the offensive line, and offensive line is always a position group that takes longer. But I particularly look at wide receivers and running backs, and I ask, where's the development?
I'll say this. I think this may be a little bit hot takey, but I think what they've got on the offensive line that's in the oven right now, I'm excited about that if I'm a Nebraska fan, because I think the Sledges, the Brickses of the world, and look at Gatula. Gunner has played well, and I know he split some time. They moved Mizuka out to left tackle today. Look at what's been brought in, Elijah. Evans is a Rhule recruit, okay? Scott is a portal guy. How many of they're all Matt's kids, I get it. But how many guys are playing that he inherited versus guys that are ready now that he brought in? Really, it's just Benhart.
Can we turn this around, though, and look at what Kurt Signetti has done at Indiana?
Sure.
I know he brought in plenty of transfers, but he's also got a lot of those Indiana guys playing better than they ever did at any other point in their Indiana career.
Sure. No,
I agree with that. I'm look, they're a great story right now, right? They've got a 6th-year quarterback, and I know it's in the MAC, but that's still 6 years of college football. And what is that program going to look like next year? I know that they're probably hot.
He won't be there.
And right, exactly. That's my point. And look, I don't believe in, and I like Dabo Swinney, but he has not gone to the portal whatsoever. And if he does, it's going to be kicking and screaming, right? But Signetti comes in and they microwaved it, and it's working for him right now. But what happens when those guys move on, and maybe he moves on year 2, year 3, and you are having to rebuild? What you're hoping right now is the portal worked for you, which it has to this point, and that recruits catch the fever. And I think I read something where they had 80 recruits go into their game today. So that you hope that those recruits catch the fever, and that year 2 you can carry momentum. But there's going to be a drop. If you're relying on that heavily of a transfer portal every single year, eventually it's not going to work. I mean, go to basketball. You know, the one and done with Calipari, it took a while, but eventually didn't work anymore. And for the last couple of years, 3-4 years actually, at Kentucky with Kentucky basketball, the whole one and done mentality and philosophy, it died. And for 4 years they've been trying to get him out of there. They finally did. Signetti may not be around long enough. You know, his name's already getting thrown around for Florida. May not be around long enough to see what his microwave recipe, whether it worked or not at Indiana.
My problem though with that is Indiana's an old football team, and he microwaved the results, but it's not like Nebraska is this young team. Nebraska's got 7, arguably 8 guys on the offensive side of the ball that have played 4 years of college football.
Totally agree with that. I agree. I don't discount that Nebraska's got some experience and some players that have not developed. And all these people say, Nebraska got beat today. There are no excuses. I'm looking down the road for Indiana. do you want to have a developmental program? It's a cliche thing, right? Do you want to have players who are bought in and you can keep them here and they are going to be good for you for a couple of years? Or do you want to just continue to try and do it in the portal every year? Look at Nebraska basketball. And everybody wants Fred Hoiberg to win, but I'm looking at Nebraska's basketball roster this year going, who the hell are some of these guys? Right. And I think that Indiana is going to find that out with their football program. It's just the way of the world. It is the way of the world now, right?
You've got to be right. And Indiana's right now with the quarterback they brought in. And Nebraska, while it was an upgrade in experience, which is what you needed at wide receiver, you've not gotten it on all levels of wide receiver play. Jim asked the question, who's the standout coach on offense? His name's Ron Brown. Okay, that's your standout coach on offense right now if you're Nebraska, because you're not getting outstanding offensive line play. You're not getting outstanding running back play from Barthel. You're not getting a full picture at wide receiver. Fedoni, I guess, but that's Sat's position group. And from a quarterback standpoint, Dylan's been better than advertised as a freshman, although it's been a really lumpy 4 games, right? Post-Colorado, it's been pretty lumpy. While you were all right against Illinois, you had a tough fourth quarter. You had a brutal second quarter and beyond against Rutgers. Maybe it wasn't just the weather or the heat. And right now, I don't know if he's seeing ghosts, if he's not right physically, or a combination of whatever. On top of it, just seeing things for the first time at this level, he's forcing too much stuff right now.
He's playing like a freshman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Should we hear from Matt Rhule?
Let's hear from Matt Rhule. And Real Red Reaction can join us at 489-1240 or keep the comments coming in the stream, the Real Red Reaction YouTube channel, Hail Varsity YouTube channel as well.
The way that they play, offense, defense, and special teams, just a lot of credit. And, on our end, as I just told the guys in there, this happened on my watch, and I'll be honest with you guys, I didn't see this coming. I thought we were going to play great. And they exploited a lot of things on us. We had some opportunities, we start with the ball on the 2-yard line. We have a couple chances to get off the field on the first drive. Can't make those plays. We have a chance to get off the field. We have a chance to answer. We step out of bounds at the 2. We fumble the ball in the red zone. And but at the end of the day, we just couldn't really tackle the back today. Couldn't stop the run. And they made a lot of big plays in the vertical passing game. And just was bad football by us. And I'm not embarrassed of our players, but I'm embarrassed of the job that I did, to get our team ready. I have to do a better job next week and the weeks after. I didn't sense any quit in the guys. Probably could have kept the score down by maybe punting, a couple of those 4th downs or not throwing it and just kind of seeding the game. But I thought it was really important for our team as they went through this, that we continue to try to attack. And there's a bunch of young players, the Dylans of the world. I want them to have those throws, those opportunities, and try to fight back. And we just weren't able to really get anything done on all 3 sides of the ball today. So very, very, very disappointing. I appreciate all the fans that came here. I appreciate everyone that supports us. And this was certainly not good enough by any stretch. And for that, I'm sorry. Oh, they put us in a run pass bind with their RPO game and a couple of the big plays. They attacked us in man with some crack screens, which is the same stuff we do, and they blocked us well on the perimeter. I felt like a lot of it, to be quite honest with you, Sam, was just we didn't tackle real well. They were finding seams and missing tackles, and even it might seem like a little thing now and then, but all of a sudden you're in instead of being in 2nd and 7, you're in 1st and 10 again, and they just stay on the field. And so, and I think they threw the ball up and they went up and got the ball, and that makes it hard for Tony as he's trying to play some man, to get it, and then we just were never quite able to get home. Even when we got home a couple of times, we couldn't quite sack the quarterback. So. Just didn't really make a play to get off the field. Malcolm made the one play before the half where he jumped up and knocked away the post, and that was really the only one that we had. So I haven't seen a day like that defensively. Even if you go back to Michigan for us last year, obviously that game got away from us, but it was never a day where we just couldn't get a stop. I don't think we used the punt return team till the fourth quarter. We had the one stop on fourth down, but they played fast. They played decisively. Their backs ran hard, and we didn't tackle.
Can you expand on what you mean by, or what you saw from that effort? You mentioned you saw no quit in that. What did you see as things got
Well, I mean, I think it was 28. It was a 28-7, coming out of the half, and we drove the ball down. They throw the, things sometimes go out of order in my brain, right? But because I'm thinking back, but we throw the pick on fourth down, right, and that runs down there. I'm just saying, I've been a part of some bad teams where guys are on the sidelines throwing their helmets and quitting. I didn't see that. I saw guys wanting to continue to play. As we got into the fourth, that game was decided, which is disappointing. So we played some of the young players, and they made some mistakes. But I think it was 3 interceptions, maybe 4, in the second half, 3, and which led to touchdowns by them. So, I do believe with all my heart, I believe that in games like this, there's a ton of lessons and a ton of opportunities. And so, getting out there offensively and trying to drive the ball, or defensively, playing some of the young players, you give guys a chance to get reps, versus a really good team, but. I just think that I thought they had our number today. And again, that's the part that really infuriates me as the head coach. People are going to point at this person, everything should be pointed right at me. I usually can see things coming. And I'll tell you right now, I did not see this coming. And so credit to them. I don't want to take anything away from them. They're an excellent football team, but yeah, I did not see this coming.
What's your biggest concern right now on offense? What would you say?
You talking about today, during the game today, or I'm not probably
today in totality.
I'm probably not in the right mind frame to do like a big picture thing. I'll be happy to answer that probably on Monday. As I think through it, just I'm still so in the moment here today. I think the biggest thing today, Sip, is there's nothing that's happening that's like easy and routine. You got a one-on-one, you're throwing a bubble out there and we're catching it, and they're running for 20 yards on the same play, and we're getting tackled for no gain. It's one thing when if you're throwing that into bad coverages, you're yelling at the coaches, and it's just in general, right? And so I'm not putting that on the players. I'm not putting that on anybody. It's just even when you think you have a good play, like a big play, it's just not quite clicking. And we wanted to play that game differently. Our hope today was to come out. They're a pass rushing group. We wanted to get in big people. We wanted to run the ball. We wanted to play action. We wanted to be violent. We kind of had that going. We ran the ball on that one drive, then fumbled the ball in the red zone, right? Then we came back and we did some different things and scored to make it 14-7. And then kind of as it got away from us, it just was like, hey, let's go to more. We're going to have to go more of a drop back to get back in the game. And I don't know that we're going to win, just dropping back and throwing it every play. We need a run game to go with it. And, So in general, I think as a score got away from us, we got away from kind of the game plan offensively, but nothing that's happening. You kind of throw a ball out there and it's one-on-one and you're hoping someone steps out of it. We're just not quite stepping out of it. And I'm not throwing that on the guys. I've got to find better ways to get our guys to make that play. We made some great catches. Jalen catches the ball, puts his hand on the ground, but the run after catch, explosive type plays, we're kind of always getting tackled and having to snap it again. And, you like the 80-yard run, you like the 40-yard play. So I think that's what I saw today. And as we move forward, I'd be happy to talk. I'd like to think through it. I just don't want to say something that's,
I know it's standard for you to defer at the beginning of games. If you guys win the coin toss, did you consider taking the ball to try to get a lead on Indiana right away? Obviously, it didn't play out the way you hoped.
Yeah.
But what was the thought process in choosing to defer?
Yeah, we always defer, and we trust our defense, right? We have a pretty darn good defense. We thought we were going to play great defense today. Sometimes I'll take the ball when win's a factor. But if you look at most of the games that they've played, it's been a one-score game going into the fourth quarter. And this is the first time, other than that, they've just done that to somebody. Like they were clicking on all cylinders and we were not. And so that's why I say, I look back at who else can I look at but me? But that's why I just thought like, hey, and again, we had them stop. They make the first down, right? We have them second and whatever. They checked the ball down, third down. So they had some opportunities both drives that they scored early on to get off the field. I thought we'd be better on third down. I thought we'd match up well. In third down, we didn't quite make any plays in coverage, today that we needed to make.
What are the challenges now of just moving on from this? Because obviously you're going to play a team with perception more talent next weekend on the road at Ohio State.
Yeah, I honestly, I just think that our guys are going to bounce back. I've never doubted the character of those guys. This was not a day-to-day where they didn't come out and try. This wasn't a week where they didn't practice. That's what hurts me about it, right? Like, I'm telling you that I believe we were going to play great just based on everything that I've seen. And so we got a lot of guys in that room who love Nebraska and they're resilient and they want to battle. And so, as a team, we have some things that we're, good at. We have some things that we're not quite good enough at yet that we're working through. And this team took advantage of some of those things. And so they'll come back and they'll fight. I would have no doubt that we'll fight all 5 games. The days of like a big disappointing loss, setting us on a run, we're going to play each game. If the team's better than us, they're better than us. But I know those guys, they'll battle. Sorry? I disagree with the call. So I was holding the iPad when I did it. So, you're not supposed to show the iPad to the official, but because I was holding it, he threw it on me. But I didn't show it to him. So I'm confused sometimes with some of the rules now. But here again, that had nothing, I appreciate you asking me. I want to make sure I said that had nothing to do with the game. It was a well-called game. We didn't play nearly well enough.
How did you assess his performance today?
Yeah, I think I have to watch the tape to see, where things were. I just think with young, talented quarterbacks like that, that stunk today, right? Like in terms of being in that situation. But that situation will pay off for him in so many ways. Because what I loved was he just kept wanting to go back out there. And he just kept competing. And, even that second to last drive, he moved us down the field. We had the ball down to the 5-yard line, right? So that competitive spirit, that grit, that's what you want from your quarterback. A lot of those quarterbacks, especially those 5-star kids, nothing's ever been hard for them. That was hard today, and Ja'Cory kept going out there and he kept going out there. And so we'll take this one, we'll let it hurt. We won't say much, I hope. We'll just we'll go back home. We'll wake up tomorrow and we'll get to work on next week. Because no matter what the score is, we just, we lost, right? Whether you lose in overtime or you lose by the score we lost by a day, it's just a loss. It's a bad loss. And again, I apologize for that loss. I apologize that people spent their time and money to come watch that. But again, I'm not embarrassed of our guys. I'm proud of our guys, and I know the work that they put in. I know the sacrifices they make. They'll do it again this week. But I thought that was important for Dylan. Big picture on how he played. Obviously, I have to watch this film. Even the one pick six, like it's really not on him. He's counting on a lot of other people, and if it's not quite perfect at the quarterback position, it's hard. And so we'll get a little bit better next week. Thank you all.
That was Matt Rhule. Post game, we're getting that to you a little late, almost 2 hours into the show, but we've had a lot of phone calls and interaction on the stream, Hail Varsity YouTube and Real Red Reaction YouTube. Chris Schmidt, Bill Dolman, Elijah Herbal. Real Red Reaction powered by Slim Chickens. 14th in Pine Lake, 84th in Old Cheney. Eat those feelings tonight. One of the many words, guys, out of the presser that I think best I can associate with Nebraska's offense is indecisive. That's the perfect word to pair with this offense. There's a lot of things that they can't do. There's a lot of things that they want to do, but they just don't really know what they want to do that will work. And you keep calling plays that you think will work, or you hope will work, or you give it to Dowdell because he's the thumper back on 4th and 1 and the guy fumbles it, or there's Dylan and he's hesitant to get the ball out, or there's no one open, so he's got to hold it an extra count or 2 or 20, and he gets smacked. It's just a mess right now against teams of substance for this offense. And you look at the point totals, they've kept going the wrong direction, and it is tough to score in the Big Ten. we thought the first team to 30 would have it. Well, Indiana damn near had 30 at half.
It's easy to score points, apparently, if you're Indiana, but I'm glad we listened to that. He said he apologized, which to a certain extent he should. He's at a place where people care. If Indiana tanks the rest of the season, they're going to think, man, well, that was pretty fun. Thanks for a good year. I mean, they're caring about Indiana football for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And if Cignetti leaves for Florida or something and doesn't stick around to Indiana, they'll go back to being Indiana, the basketball school, and being upset when they go 18-12.
Well, they'll pour a drink one night and say, "Well, remember that time they had Big Noon here, and they put it on Nebraska."
Yeah, but look, Rhule's saying, "I'm sorry." He needs to have some assistant coaches in the room to him. He's taking arrows.
He's being a leader.
Yeah, I mean, but they are. He's got some people in the room with him that need to be looking at the coach saying, "Look, it's on. It's on me." And I didn't. He took the heat as he should, as being the leader, but he's got some people on his staff that are letting him down.
Yeah, can I ask the question? Maybe that's a good topic for us to end on.
Yeah,
I don't want to go, is the sky falling? But does this game today make you doubt not the Rhule tenure as a whole, but does it make you doubt what we thought the direction of this program was?
Absolutely, it does.
It's probably still generally up, but to me, it really doubts the angle of that trajectory.
I think what it does is
good point. It
makes me doubt the timetable.
Yes, that's the right way to put it.
I think it makes me doubt the timetable. I think, as you look back, that maybe bowl game in year 2 is okay. Not 7, not 8, not 9. And it is a wild year in college football. And it is a living, breathing thing where you each week got to be ready to go. And that's evident. But Nebraska right now, the timetable it's going to be it's going to take longer for those wood floors to come in. We've got supply chain problems, fellas. This is what I'm saying.
Look,
it makes me reassess the timetable. I still like Rhule, and I think he is professional enough at the end of this year to look and check with the thermometer what he thinks of this program. Guys aren't getting it done or not.
I'm listening to again. I'm coming back to him. He's apologizing. If there are leaders amongst the assistant coaches, but also with those veteran players, if Ty Robinson came back to see this program take the next step up, which is a bowl game, there are some veteran players on that roster who have been through some miserable times, that stuck around, believed in Rhule, and wanted to take the next step. They better step up in the second half of this season and at least get 1 or 2 more and say it can't be up to him to take the blame all the time. And when they go into their nap pod and get their massages and play their video games together, somebody's got to step up and say, you know what, we need to be a little bit more Spartan around here. And I'm not talking Michigan State. I remember the days when the North Stadium Schulte Fieldhouse was up and it was a concrete floor and metal lockers, that you had, at every high school. Right. And somebody on that team amongst the players needs to make it uncomfortable for their teammates if they're going to leave a lasting legacy.
Well,
and not say, look, the coach can't be the one taking the blame for all of this. We're the ones who didn't show up on Saturday. We're the ones who got beat. We're the ones who are not executing. We're the ones who aren't blocking. We're the ones who aren't making tackles. Look, and they've got there's got to be a lot of introspection with players and assistant coaches. Rhule's right. I mean, he's up there. He's the one making $7 to $9 million a year, but he can't be the one that's trying to get them motivated every week with if we die, we die. Next week it ought to be one of the players getting up there giving the pregame speech and not Matt Rhule.
Well, one of the quotes from Jamari Butler, and I think this was either from Amy Just or Sam McEwen on Twitter, was Jamari saying, when things don't go our way, sometimes our heads go down. You still have that. And I don't know if it's going to take, bless their heart for coming back, but these 5th, 6th, or 4th year guys that have been in the program, part of the transition to get out of the program and have a reset of guys that come into the program that come from winning high school programs or don't have this PTSD. And I'm anxious to see how Dylan bounces back, because it wasn't good today with his decision making, or folks were coming after him, and he was not as accurate, and he didn't have people to throw to, and he doesn't have a run game. So,
I think that they should have gone to Harburg earlier. They should have, once it got to be 42-7. And it's just not, there's just not going to be a comeback. All right. Let's let other guys get out there and at least play for playing's sake. That's why you're here. The NFL, you have starters who go take it all the way down to the final snap in a game that's been long decided. For whatever reason, I've never understood that, why backup quarterbacks or players can't play when the game's decided, but that's just the way it is. In the third quarter or so, when the Nebraska had the ball, 12 minutes, Indiana had the ball 2 minutes,
yeah.
and they got outscored in the third quarter 14-0. That should have been, you know what, Heinrich, at least you're out there busting your ass in practice, and let's just go see what you can do and let Dylan think about this. Or hell, you've got 4 games with Kalen that you can play with, and he was on the trip. Let him take a couple of college snaps. But to put Raiola out there and to continue to let his body get bruised, his ego get bruised, which maybe that needs to happen, but let some other guys get out there and play. And Harburg, I still don't understand why they didn't put him back in there on 3rd and 1 in the first quarter. I know pointing one particular play in one sequence was not going to change really the outcome of the game in all likelihood, but it might have changed the tenor, at least in the first quarter, if you've got confidence in your special teams, all of that. But look, I would like to see a little bit more, Heinrich Harburg, just to spell Raiola when things aren't going that well, and let the freshman get his head on straight and then go back out there. Harburg's mature enough to understand this is what my role is on the team.
Here's what I need to see moving forward. I need to see adjustments. I need to see more Emmett Johnson. He finds ways to get yards out of all of the running backs. I need to see more vertical routes instead of out routes or sideline routes. You throw 25 yards across the field to get 5 yards. That's if somebody actually gets open to catch it. Then I need to see more 4-man line, Elijah. When they were in the 3-man front, Indiana did what they wanted to do. And if necessary, give me more bear front like you did against Rutgers. But the adjustments weren't there, and maybe Indiana does this to more people this year. Maybe they'll challenge Ohio State. Maybe they'll challenge Michigan. Maybe they'll destroy Michigan next week. Not sure, but
I think they will.
There's players not playing, or if they do get in, it's too little, too late.
I'm just at the point, I know that the James Madison players were brought along, and today was a clear indication that Indiana in year 1 is far ahead of where Nebraska is in year 2 of a rebuild in terms of the talent they have on the field. I wasn't expecting it to be
mentality is farther along.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it to be as night and day in all facets as it was today. And that's where the concern comes from, is it wasn't just talent on the field. It was mentality. It was coaching. It was development. And Curt Cignetti is doing it with guys that were not highly recruited out of high school. But what Matt Rhule wants to be is what Curt Cignetti has done through James Madison and through Indiana. And maybe you could call it year 3. It's almost, I don't know, it's weird because you brought the best players from JMU with you, combined it with the Indiana players, and made all of them better this season. What Curt Cignetti has done so far at Indiana is what Husker fans thought Matt Rhule could do at Nebraska. And it's a slower process at Nebraska, but today was just such a sign that That to me, it is so much further from a finished product than Husker fans would like it to be. Because I think what Husker fans envisioned before today was, you know what, today or this season is the season where the ball gets rolling. Next season is the season where you go out there and you really compete. And then year 3 is the year where it's, college football playoff or bust.
There are ways they're so far away.
To your point,
so
Schmitty,
far away, man.
Today adjusted the timetable because you have guys in the program. I look at the lines of scrimmage. Once these seniors leave, what's next year going to be along the lines of scrimmage with guys?
Well, are the guys
up and down the offensive and defensive line?
Are the guys in the waiting wings in the waiting room better than what they got now? Are the younger guys going to be better than the older guys? I don't know.
Here's a thought too.
Just from a mentality standpoint.
Well, that's what I was going to go to. If Matt Rhule comes in and takes over a really downtrodden and a program with a lack of confidence, talented players, but there's just not a lot of. It was a mentally fragile program,
big time.
Who did he bring in that could be traced back to him? There was a couple of players from Baylor, Sherman, maybe 3 players that were familiar with Matt Rhule.
Mizuka's one of them.
Well, but that was this year. I'm talking about in year 1. There were a couple of players that may have been at Baylor, as I recall, or something. He's coming in and he's taken over that entire stable of players and newcomers that don't have a whole lot of confidence. And they're just trying to get to know this coach. Okay. Cignetti brings in a host of players from JMU. They know their coach. They know his mentality. They've all got that, I hate the term chip on their shoulder, but they've all got that mentality of they're confident in him. They know what he wants. They know how he coaches. They know that if they get down, that they look to him, they believe in what they've done. They had success at JMU together, and they're going to go to Indiana, and they're going to have success together. So he brings in a wave of players with him that get him, and he's instilled a confidence in them, and he's brought them with him. Rourke's a 6th-year guy from Ohio. So he's not one of them, but he's been around a long time. Rhule comes into a situation where it is fragile. And now he's getting his guys in. So I think that there is a difference in the way, in the mentality, the confidence. If Butler's saying we get down and things go wrong, that's not healthy. But they still have PTSD from pre-Rhule. These guys are coming in with Cignetti swagger, and they're not afraid to get hit because they believe that they can come back. They believe in the success that they've had before together.
And that's what concerns me, Bill, is we're 22 months into the Matt Rhule tenure, and he's got no answers for fixing the PTSD. No answers whatsoever.
Other than may have them graduate.
Other than new players. And so when you're talking about like offensive line, I'm with Schmitty, and I think whatever Nebraska's got in, oh God, don't say pipeline, whatever Nebraska has in its youthful the youthful offensive linemen, I think most people look at that and go, there's some pretty good players there. Gatula's getting experience. Right. And maybe you get another a portal guy, but there's a pretty solid foundation of young players that are growing up together in Nebraska's offensive line room. They weren't going to supplant Prohaska and Ben Hart, and Scott's been around a while now. There's a very good center, Evans, all of those players. But if you've got something coming in that you put together, understanding that in 2025 or so, that offensive line could be a pretty good unit for a couple of years. Now you're building something, right? So I think to that extent, that's the formula. Is yes, Rhule is the slow cooker, and it's tough. They can't have days like this for people to believe in it. Yeah, at the beginning of the year, if you said Nebraska is going to be 7-5, some people would say, you know what, it's a bowl game, that's good.
Take it.
And right now you're like looking at 7-5. Now you're settling for, you're hoping for. The mentality is completely changed in that regard.
Well, in Collins' comment here, if Cignetti was handed Nebraska's roster, they'd be 7-0, and Raiola would be throwing for 350 a game. That's the excuse for why Northwestern, UCLA, and Maryland put up better fights against Indiana. You've got to be better at getting your guys ready and putting a plan together.
There was no fight. That's a big problem, is that there was no fight. I get that. Inexcusable.
No.
So as we kind of put a bow on things here, I think we all pretty universally give Nebraska's performance today an F in all facets. Any optimism, anything to take away from this?
I think Nebraska out-punted Indiana.
You know what? Hang the banner, Bill.
Indiana got sacked on the third series of the game on 4th and 2. Bayer shot through there. And then they punted once. So, 8 out of 10 drives they score. You're right, Bill. Nebraska out-punted Indiana.
Give that guy a black shirt. He also shanked one, but no. Oh well. No, it's
people are upset because of the embarrassment on the stage at this point in the rebuild.
This is
they
whatever
they looked like UTEP today.
This is worse than 45-7 against Michigan last year.
Michigan won it. This was 70-10 Texas Tech.
I even think that Nebraska last year losing to Michigan had some fight in it. They just got beat up by an opponent that was better, But I think Nebraska went into that Michigan game with a little fight to it and just got beat by the eventual national champion. Today, they went into the fight and forgot their gloves and didn't care.
Yeah.
That's the worst. That's the worst part about it, is there was no fight.
Meanwhile, Colorado's on the road annihilating Arizona. It's a good thing you got the Buffs when you did.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to check this out, it'll be posted up on YouTube, Hail Varsity YouTube, Real Red Reaction YouTube, Hail Varsity Radio, Twitter, KFOR, Facebook, and Twitter. And we'll do another live pod tomorrow to cross-promote. We'll be doing the Average Joe Sunday Live, 10:30 tomorrow morning. We'll all be on that.
Can I answer Vic real quick?
Yeah,
Vic said this looked like Pacific versus Nebraska, except we were Pacific. I would like to point out that Pacific came to Lincoln that year, got a big fat check, and then dropped football. But anyway.
No, for sure.
And the problem being that Pacific wasn't playing a first-year head coach. They were playing a well-established football program. How about that?
On a side note, it had been a long time since Daddy had some whiskey, and tastes pretty good, Bill.
Maybe I'll go have one of those myself.
I think somebody stole my emergency shooters in here.
Did they? Well, let me tell you what happened. Bill came over. It was like, you know what? Bill's fun to hang out with. He tolerates me. He's a dear friend. But Nebraska won on the road the last time Bill came over. Bill won the last time we put porterhouses on the grill.
Flintstone steaks.
And I should have done them at halftime. That's what I should have done. It's my fault. It's my bad. And Elijah's like, hey, a-hole, thanks for the invite.
I didn't need a steak at halftime. I needed a bottle of whiskey is what I needed.
Bottle of scotch and a firearm.
And maybe a bathtub and a toaster as well.
Yeah. Well, enjoy the rest of your Saturday. There's other college football to remind you of what happened today.
The Hail Varsity Radio parlay of the day, Schmitty, died. It died with the first game, so that's no good.
So Captain wants me to change the direction of my ceiling fan. Wow.
How long has it been spinning in that direction? Roughly, 9 years? 8?
We moved in. Oh, you'll love this. We moved in 2017, but it was Ohio State week.
And the fan's been spinning that direction ever since?
56-14 Ohio State week.
Don't tell me the fan's been spinning that direction ever since.
It has. How do you...
Captain might be onto something.
Well, I don't have a ladder tall enough to reach the thing.
Go get Junior to stand on your shoulders or something.
Yeah, that'd work out well. Appreciate all of you in the the stream. We'll be back tomorrow morning live. Average Joe Sunday pod for you. So sleep on it. We'll
Usually-
have more amazing insights from what that was this afternoon.
Yeah, usually I would rewatch the game before we do the Average Joe show. I don't think there's any point this week. I'm just going to go home, maybe play some NCAA football, watch some college football, and hope to forget about everything.
Loose lips like, just flip the switch. I can't reach it. This is a problem. So, well, on another brighter note, we're at least in Columbus for next week's live version of Real Red. We'll be in.
I want to
Columbus.
refund that trip, actually.
we need it canceled now. Too bad we can't. So, well, hey, take Shaggy for a walk, Bill. Get some fresh air, and I'll text you for another whiskey in a little bit.
All right.
Appreciate you, Bill. Appreciate you, Elijah. Thanks to JP. Thanks to Motzi. Thanks to you. And back at you tomorrow morning, 10:30 on Average Joe. See ya.